So, you pick up a company's big, glossy financial report. You see all these numbers, but have you ever stopped to wonder, are they for real? Today, we're diving into ISA 501. Think of it as the special playbook auditors use to check the really tricky stuff. The things in the warehouse, the secrets in legal files. Let's get right into it.
That's the big question, isn't it? You see a line item that says a company has $1 billion in inventory. $1 billion. But how do you actually know that stuff is sitting in a warehouse somewhere? How do you know it's not just a number on a spreadsheet?
And this gets extra complicated in a few key areas. We're talking about 1, physical stuff you can touch, like inventory. 2, potential lawsuits that nobody's talking about yet. And 3, the way a company splits up its business. These are the spots where the numbers can get a little fuzzy.
But the good news is auditors don't just show up and hope for the best. They have a detailed game plan, and it's called International Standard on Auditing 501, or just ISA 501. This is their guide for hunting down the facts in these 3 specific high-risk areas. It's all about one thing: getting the proof.
And at the heart of ISA 501 is this phrase right here: sufficient appropriate audit evidence. It sounds technical, but it's simple. Sufficient is about the quantity of proof. Did you get enough of it? And appropriate is about the quality. Is it the right kind of proof? You need both. You can't just have a mountain of bad evidence.
So ISA 501 breaks down the mission for each area. For inventory, the job is to prove it actually exists and to check its condition. Is it shiny and new or rusty and worthless? For litigation, it's all about completeness. Have we found all the potential legal bombs? And for segments, it's about making sure the story is being told fairly.
All right, let's dive into our first case file: inventory. This is where the auditor has to get out from behind the desk. We're not just looking at numbers anymore. We're talking about confirming that real physical things actually exist. So, just picture it. You're an auditor standing in a warehouse the size of an airplane hangar. Pallets are stacked to the ceiling. The company's books say there are 1 million widgets in here. How in the world do you prove that? You can't just take their word for it, right?
Well, ISA 501 gives them a clear 4-step mission. First, they look at management's plan for counting everything. Is it any good? Second, they physically watch the count happen. Are people following the plan? Third, they walk around and actually inspect the goods. Is anything broken, dusty, or obsolete? And fourth, they do their own counts. They'll pick items from the list and say, show me where this is.
But, what if the warehouse is on a remote island and it's impossible to get there? Well, the auditor can't just shrug and move on. They have to find another way, like checking records to see if that inventory was sold right after year end. And if they still can't get the proof they need, that's when things get really serious.
And this is the ultimate consequence. If an auditor can't get comfortable with something as huge as inventory, they have to modify their opinion. That's audit speak for waving a giant red flag in their final report that tells the world, hey, we couldn't verify this massive piece of the puzzle.
Okay, on to our second challenge. This one's a bit like ghost hunting. We're looking for things that aren't on the books yet. Potential lawsuits, hidden claims that could come back to haunt the company's finances.
Now, this is a really tough one. Think about it. If you were a company facing a lawsuit that could sink you, you might not want to advertise it, right? So how does an auditor find something that someone might be actively trying to hide?
The hunt begins with some serious detective work. The auditor asks management and the company's own lawyers point blank. They read through every page of the board meeting minutes, looking for whispers of legal trouble. They review emails to outside law firms, and, this is a really smart one, they scrutinize the legal expense accounts. A big, sudden payment to a law firm? That's a pretty good clue.
Now, if the auditor starts to suspect something's up, they bring out the big guns. They have the company send what's called a letter of inquiry directly to its outside lawyers. This is a formal request asking the lawyers to confirm everything they're working on for the company. It basically goes around management straight to the legal source for the unvarnished truth.
And there it is again. What if management says, nope, you can't talk to our lawyers? The rule is crystal clear. If the auditor is blocked and can't find another way to get the evidence, they have no choice. They have to modify their opinion. Transparency is not a choice here.
And that brings us to our third and final challenge. This one is all about making sure the company is telling the whole, honest story of its performance, not just showing you the highlights. So imagine a giant company that makes jet engines and also toasters. The jet engine business is flying high, but the toaster division is, well, toast. A company could try to hide that bad news by just lumping all the numbers together. So how does an auditor make sure that's not happening?
The auditor's job is to really dig into how the company slices and dices its business. They have to understand management's methods, check if those methods even follow the accounting rules, and then test them. But then they also step back and do what are called analytical procedures, which is really just a fancy way of asking, does this story actually make sense?
So we've gone through warehouses, dug through legal files, and analyzed business segments. Let's pull it all together and talk about why this one standard, ISA 501, is just so incredibly important. It really comes down to these three things. Three specific, super high-risk areas where the numbers on a page can easily get disconnected from what's happening in the real world. Inventory, litigation, and segments.
Look, at the end of the day, all these procedures are the guardrails of our financial system. They're the specific things auditors have to do to make sure the numbers you're reading are tied to reality. This isn't just about ticking boxes. It is the very foundation of the trust that makes our markets work. Without it, the whole thing falls apart.
So the next time you pick up a financial report and see that big number for inventory, maybe you'll think a little differently about what it took to verify it. Because of standards like ISA 501, you can have a lot more confidence that the story you're reading is the true story. Thanks for joining us.